Welcome to Treknicity. You know that show here on the Red Shirt Geeks Network where we talk about, you guessed it, that's right, Star Trek. I'm your host, Lars Di Scenza, coming to you from somewhere beyond the cosmos, or most likely Southern California. Either way, it's probably the same thing. Joining me again for another episode and another review of a Star Trek movie is my hetero life mate and fellow Red Shirt Geeks. Fellow Red Shirt Geek, Patrick Murray. Say hi, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. Also, I occasionally am more than one person, so you're probably okay with saying Red Shirt Geeks.
Yeah, probably. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about that really okay movie, Star Trek 9, or Star Trek Insurrection.
Star Trek Insufficient Erection, yes, that's what it is. So this proves that Jonathan Frakes is not automatically the most awesome director ever. Yeah. Because he directed this movie. Yeah, so we start off with this movie.
Hang on a second. Wait a minute. No. Before you just jump in like that, you can't just bash Frakes for no reason. Come on.
I watched the movie.
He gave us Star Trek First Contact, okay? It's not always about the director. It's about the story. What? It's about how they execute it and the stupid little quips in there that end up in this movie that just kind of make you go, ugh. But anyway, go ahead.
He had fun with it, which we're going to get to the good parts and the bad parts, and there's more bad parts. But consider this. We watched last movie was Star Trek First Contact. On Rotten Tomatoes, it got 93%. This one got 55%.
Yes.
Of course, the next one we're going to talk about after this got 38%.
Yeah. Well, and it actually, we'll talk about the fallout of that movie too. Now let's talk about this movie. Go ahead and lay it out how the beginning, how the movie starts out.
Okay, so we start in a peaceful village, which nice agrarian village, looks like it's in Southern California.
No way.
Okay, but as we go over all these people working in their fields and making bread and pottery and whatever the hell they're doing, we see that the Federation is there. Starfleet has spies walking around in invisibility suits, and there's a duck blind where they're sitting there and spying on everything, and of course this is because of the Prime Directive, so it makes sense.
But wait a minute, hang on a second. They're not allowed to use the cloaking device on ships, but they're allowed to use cloaking devices on suits.
Oh, they break that too here. Let's see what we've got. Sorry, I have a cheese and meat sandwich with meat for the bun. It's delicious. Keto is awesome. So, suddenly, some kids come running. Food flying out there. Some kids come running because there's random phaser fire.
Pew, 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 pew.
Choo, choo.
Gotcha.
Of course, it turns out that this is Data. He's running along, and they're trying to shoot him, and he's running to the village. Then he gets to the village, and they try to take him down, and he just kicks everybody's ass.
Right.
Then he pulls off his helmet, and suddenly his head's visible. And we can see there's a little bit of damage on him, so something's not right. Mm-hmm. So it finally takes the phaser and shoots the duck blind's cloak out, and they're like, oh no, we're visible. What are we going to do? Meanwhile, on the USS Enterprise, 1701E, if you're keeping track, Crusher and Troy are prepping Picard for some diplomatic shit. And it seems to be there's a whole bunch of diplomatic stuff they got to do here. They got to go do some things to put out some fires because obviously with the war with the Dominion over, the Enterprise is busy doing all the diplomatic crap. In fact, Picard at some point mentions, do you remember when we used to explore?
Does anybody remember when we used to be explorers?
And make good movies? Okay. Of course, Worf shows up because convenience!
Yeah, well, Worf's got to be in the movie. He just happens to be there because, reasons.
Yeah. Reasons are we need to get Michael Dorn in this movie, so let's have Worf show up for something. Does not matter. The last time when he shows up and when he shows up in First Contact, it makes perfect sense because the Defiant's there, and they save his ass from getting blown up because he's in the middle of a battle with commanding his own ship. So it makes sense. And since they picked him up, and oh crap, we got to follow the Borg. So guess you're on with us, Worf. Yeah, it's convenient, but it makes sense. This is, hey, Worf, we're going to go do something. You want to come along? Sure, we will go along, and I will fight things.
Ham fisting moment number 1.
Okay, enough fisting, right? Okay. Okay, so apparently they receive a call about Data having problems. So
Admiral Dowery wants his schematics, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. Yeah, so obviously they send them along, but obviously there's more going on, so they're kind of having to work through their diplomatic crap, get some alien that has some weird headpiece for Picard, and get them off the ship, get her gone, and that's pretty much it there. Nothing exciting. So the Admiral and some guys, some aliens, we don't know anything about them yet. This is going to be the Sona. They arrive, and a ship comes up and starts shooting at them and kicks their ass. Not surprisingly, it's Data.
In the scout.
And the Sona, we get to find out they basically are stretching their skin and doing weird things. And the one guy's got a bleeder here, and it's all weird.
It's because they're basically they've outlived their lifespan, and they're needing some serious intervention to stop them from dying off.
Yeah, obviously they haven't learned about procreation and then dying. Okay, so Data's just whipping everybody's ass anytime they go. So the Enterprise saddles up and decides to take a little side trip on the way to whatever the next mission is in the opposite direction to where Data is. So they have to fly through this place called the Briar Patch, which they can't go very fast because obviously it's got some weird gas and bullshit reasons that they can't go very fast, so that will help the plot later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know about having to go slow because it's some really bad gas.
Yeah, I usually just end up curled in a ball when I have that. Now, it turns out Starfleet's working with the Sona to do something on this planet. We don't know the specifics. But once they start getting in there, Troy and Riker are doing some flirting and things like that. We find out, but in the process, we find out some things. The Sona also produced Ketracel White.
Which, for those who are in the know or even not in the know, Ketracel White is the narcotic that the Dominion uses to control the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, but since that war's over, obviously they got to do something else. They also like to use weapons that are banned by every other civilized spacefaring race because.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
Subspace weapons banned by the Second Khitomer Accord.
Yeah. Not the first one, which obviously didn't work out too well, except if you're Kirk. Was that the third? I don't know which Khitomer Accord is. Okay, so let's see here. So Troy and Riker are getting flirty. Worf is sleeping in for some reason, but they've arrived to the planet. But they finally get to the planet and get the information from the Admiral. There appears to be Data's apparently got the people on the planet, the Baku, holding several Starfleet and Sona personnel hostage. So Picard and Worf jump into a shuttle to go and try to take out Data. It's the big thing here is metaphasic radiation. That's going to be, I think that's going to be our buzzword. And Data's apparently hiding it because as soon as they get too close, Data shows up and starts shooting him. So Picard breaks out his greatest weapon, the HMS Pinafore! They start singing. Is it just let's come up with every quirk for Data we can find?
Well, I mean, look, it's a nice little play on, the thing is Data is trying to become more cultured, so it was a nice little play. It was, again, a little bit kind of meh. But,
yeah.
But it did get to show off Brent Spiner's singing chops again, so that's not always bad.
It's entertaining and ham-fisted as hell, but that's Brent Spiner. So they dock with the ship, and Data decides to take them spinning around, and they technobabble their way out of a dive toward the planet somehow. Seriously, it's literally them just yelling technobabble as they try to not be flung into oblivion and die.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. But that's Star Trek.
It was emergency power to the inertial dampener that fixed it.
It's technobabble.
Of course.
Either way, they bust in and hit Data with a zapper that Geordi put together, and Data turns into a block.
Yeah.
That's it. So, let's see here. Where are we at? So, of course, after getting Data secured, the crew beams down to see what they can do about the hostages, and they're like, here they are. Come on in. You can take them. The artificial life form said we shouldn't let them go because they're our enemy or something. I don't know. We're just chill here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they figured out Data's an artificial life form. Because apparently, besides having kids that can kick hacky sacks around like madmen, the Bakus apparently know about androids and positronic brains and all that. So apparently they, of course, they also point out that the Federation is kind of spying on them, which is kind of bullshit. So
that's not protected by the Prime Directive, so they can spy on people. They did it back in the episode of TNG, Who Watches the Watchers. Of course, that didn't work out too well because, Picard got
Picard became a god.
Yeah.
Surprised Kirk didn't travel into the future to fight him or some shit. I can see Shatner pulling that.
Yeah, he could have.
Let's see here. I can't.
Interesting side note. That when you see Picard's chair, there's actually something hanging over, like sitting over the back of the top of the chair. That was a gift from the Mintakans from that episode Who Watches the Watchers.
Interesting.
Ding.
So one of the leaders, female, who apparently Picard seems to get the eye for her. I forget her name. You should know that.
Oh,
your job is to know all the names. I'm just going to call her Hottie because she's apparently a lot older and really hot. How old? We will get to that in a minute. So obviously at this point, it looks like something's going on with the Admiral. Admiral Dougherty. Thank you, IMDb. Okay, so obviously something's going on. Riker apparently has gotten really horny, though, because he's full-on flirting with Troy, but she kind of disses him because of the beard.
Yeah.
Biatch! It's the beard!
The beard makes him...
Riker has the beard. That's his thing, is the beard. And shitty trombone playing. So, meanwhile, down in engineering, Geordi goes ahead and patches up Data, and they pretty much determined he was blasted by a sonar weapon, which caused him to fail safe and get super moralistic and operate on that alone, and that's why he was just blasting anybody he perceived as a threat.
Exactly. So he went into secondary protocols.
Yep. So they're continuing. So they start to investigate some things on the planet. Meanwhile, Troy and Riker are in a bubble bath, and Troy's getting a chance to do some shaving on Riker. I wonder how much shaving was done.
Let's not ask. Although apparently, Jonathan Frakes apparently has a fair amount of back hair that they had to remove digitally.
They didn't have Marina Sirtis do some shaving there?
No.
Oh, God. So, they're interrupted by the Admiral, who calls and says...
This is why you're still here.
Yep.
Remind Captain Picard his 12 hours are up. Blah, 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 blah.
Get out of here.
Yep. Get out of here so we can do our shady, sketchy stuff.
Whatever we're doing. Yeah. So they go. So meanwhile on the planet, they're investigating things further. They get to the lake where they first saw the phaser blasts. Data goes for a walk underwater, and they find a ship a cloaked ship, and it's basically a hollow ship, and it looks like the Baku village has been created inside it. Of course, a Sona shows up and starts shooting. He has the aim of stormtroopers. Yes, I'm crossing my genres here. And he misses, giving them time to shoot him, and things start to get a little weird, because obviously something is up, that they're hiding a cloaked ship with the Baku village. I wonder what they're going to do. Prepare for Hamfist.
Stop preparing and Hamfist.
So, let's see here. Where are we at? So, meanwhile, back on the ship, Worf has a zit, or the Klingon equivalent of puberty zits. And Riker has his baby face back. Season 1 Riker baby face.
Smooth as an android's bottom.
Now they go to check on the hostages that were brought up. The Starfleet crew seems to be perfectly fine. In fact, they're healthy as hell. They're like mega healthy. I mean, like they're healthier than they should be at this point. The Sona, on the other hand, refused to be scanned at all.
I wonder why. Okay. 1 million bars of gold pressed latinum.
So Picard gets back to the ship, starts dancing around, and then decides to go get some. Goes down and gets the backstory on the Baku. Apparently, they're really old. Really, really, really old. As in, holy shit, it's the fountain of youth old.
Yes. So
they've been
there
because the hottie he's been eyeing is like hundreds of years old.
Yes.
Luckily, she seems to like younger guys.
Yes, that is 300. I think they're 309 years they've been on the planet. The reason why they're still alive is because. Go ahead.
Metaphysic particles, blah blah, technobabble. It's the fountain of youth. Also, since it appears that they're going to move them off, we have to get our engine reference. Hamfist.
So I'm trying to figure out.
Basically, it's a reference to the United States moving out Native Americans left and right off their land, which is apparently what we're going to be doing here.
Yes. I think Otto Arafo actually could be interchanged with Andrew Jackson.
Yeah. Except he's not as big of an asshole. She points out that Picard is really, really, really trustworthy for some reason. Probably because everybody likes Sir Pats too. It goes the thing.
I wonder if
after he has a night of not actually getting any, but we can imagine that Picard was doing it. We find Geordi standing there, and Picard walks up to him, and Geordi's got eyes! Not the digital things he had last time, but actual eyes.
Eyes?
As they regrew. I don't remember. Do you remember if he keeps them in the next movie, or he gets his digitals back?
He gets his retinal implants or ocular implants back for Nemesis.
So we get to see some LeVar Burton eyes rather than digital whatever for one movie. Well, part of a movie. So exciting.
Side note, the reason why they went to the ocular implants for First Contact and then Nemesis is because LeVar Burton felt that the visor actually limited his acting ability. And I actually give him credence to that one because, because LeVar Burton actually is a pretty kick-ass actor.
Yep. We can give him that. Okay, so let's go ahead. The Sona ships show up, and Admiral Dougherty and the Sona leader, whatever his name is.
Otto
Rufo. You're a Rufio. We'll call him Rufio. Yes, we'll call him Rufio. That's what we'll do. They, of course, are kind of pissed that Picard's still there, but he calls them on the fact that they're going to try to relocate, and that's not cool. And, of course, they had a little philosophical discussion, and they say, well, nope, you got to leave. Okay, leave. So Picard goes to his quarters, pops off his rank. Meanwhile, the Sona are getting more skin stretching, and apparently they have some serious grudge with the Baku for some reason. We don't know why yet. So Picard heads down to the captain's yacht. Because Troy, Data, and Crusher and Worf show up alongside Riker and Geordi to check out what he's doing. Troy and Data, Crusher, and Worf are all ready to go with him. The other two are going to kind of hold the ship together. So the plan is Riker's going to take the ship out, try to get some help, get the Federation Council to say, this is bullshit, knock it off. Meanwhile, Picard and the rest go down to the planet to make sure it stays inhabited.
However, the Sona basically had enough. Otto Arafo basically says, I'm going after them tonight. And they take off, they send a couple of ships down, start beaming people at random as they're running for the hills, literally.
Yep. They've set up some transport inhibitors, but they're blasting those and finding gaps and beaming people out. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is taken off, and Admiral Dougherty agrees to let the Sona go after them to bring them back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, come on, that's bullshit. So we get our Lord of the Rings reference, where literally they spend half the movie walking.
Yeah, basically.
Dum dum da dum dum. Where this is dum da da dum da da dum dum. We're walking across California. This is not New Zealand. Wait, what? Much,
yeah. So they basically take off towards the mountains, because the mountains have caves and they also have deposits of Kelvinite, which will inhibit transport.
Of course, the Sona figure out something, so they drop some drones to shoot some tags on the people to beam them out. Tags, yep. Of course, the crew starts shooting those things down left and right, but people get beamed out. They lose about 40 by the time they get to some caves. Let's see here. What else do we have?
Now, while you're looking at all that up, I'm gonna kind of just comment a little bit on this whole sequence. During the day, they basically like, hey, we need to stop. Everybody's like tired and we're hungry, and this is the safest place to do this. I'm like, okay, cool. So Data brings a couple of rations to Troy and Dr. Crusher, and then ends up basically they're talking about how their boobs are firming up. Of course, they don't worry about such things these days. And then, of course, Data goes to Worf and asks if he, notices that his boobs are firming up. Not that they care about such things these days. I know. I mean, it's really kind of like, again, these little quips, these little jokes, they weren't funny. They weren't funny because, it was like they were cut right in the middle of this really supposed to be a real serious scene in the movie. But they just make these stupid jokes, especially like when they start attacking the drones with the isolinear tags. Worf makes some comments, definitely feeling some aggressive tendencies now.
Yeah, because horny young Klingon must smash things.
Yep.
Klingon smash! Wait, what?
Whoops.
Meanwhile, the Enterprise is burning deuterium as they try to get out, and Sona ships start showing up, trying to take him out. Mm-hmm. That's not a good thing.
Escort them back.
By escort, you mean shoot?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously they're shooting these. What were they? I'm trying to remember. Subspace weapons, or was the technical term? I'm drawing a blank.
It is isometric subspace weapons.
Yeah.
Or isolytic subspace weapons. Anyways, yes. So what happens is Riker decides that, okay, let's make use of this volatile gas that is not in my gut but out in space, and starts picking it up in the ram scoop.
Yeah, because as usual, the Enterprise, when in doubt, flies into a nebula.
Of course.
So then they fly at them, and Riker breaks out the joystick.
Yeah, the
joystick.
The Microsoft joystick.
What the actual ass is this?
In the movie, it's referred to as the manual steering column, but still, it is quite clearly a Microsoft joystick. So, anyways, yes. Yeah,
really, I'd love to have a joystick, flight stick like that. That would be awesome to fly with.
As long as the ship comes with it, that'd be great.
Yeah, I actually used a flight stick on a Starship Simulator once. That was pretty cool. That wasn't a convention.
Yeah. Okay.
It was awesome, but ultimately pointless. I think manual control would have been cooler, but oh well. Not the joystick. Either way, it's a cool it's cool. Sprays the gas, it explodes, blows up one ship, and damages the other. Yay! So obviously they're in good shape. They're in good shape because they took out the bad guys. So let's see here. So the Sona start blasting the caves, trying to get them out. Let's see here. Kind of got things a little out of order.
Well, okay, yes, they start bombarding the caves. There's a cave-in, and Anij and Picard get trapped. She's hurt. He figures out how to use her little time slowy downy tricky thingy.
Yeah, we forgot that earlier. But earlier in the trip, they were doing the flirting, and she showed him how to slow down time. He, of course, figures out in the dramatically appropriate moment, and she doesn't end up a corpse. So now he's got some hottie to hit on. Yay. So after they get stoned and he slow-mos everything, they continue walking. The drones show up in a nice line, and, of course, the crew shows up, and they're ready to shoot. Fight breaks out, and in the process, the hottie and Picard get beamed out.
Yep.
Now, of course, on the ship, Picard's pretty much taunting the Admiral the whole way. It's like, yeah, you can court-martial me, it's your ass. I win. Okay. I win no matter what you do.
Now, it's important to note that Dr. Crusher actually points out to Captain Picard when she scans with a tricorder one of the Sona soldiers. She says, look at this, you won't believe it. And, of course, we'll get to why here in just a minute.
Yep. Because he points at that the Sona are going to destroy the planet. And this is where Picard drops the dime. The Sona are actually Baku. What?
You know, I'm totally taking a screenshot of that point right there. You know. Totally.
So the Sona start deploying their cool-ass collector. The collector is going to suck all the metaphasic particles out of the rings, which is basically how they create. Which is basically what gives this concentration or whatever is what creates this fountain of youth effect. So they're going to suck that. Of course, it's going to kill the planet
and everything on it.
So they decided to screw everybody on the planet. We're deploying the collector anyway. And of course, Rufio orders the Baku put in one spot and the Starfleet put in a spot where they'll all get irradiated. Of course, this is after he takes the Admiral and skin jobs him into oblivion.
Kills Admiral
Dougherty
by turning on the skin stretcher and stretching his face and head, and a less gory version of what happened in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I kind of would have liked to see the Game of Thrones version here. That would have been cooler.
Oh,
anyway.
I watched that, man. That creeped me the hell out.
But apparently there's a little bit of dissent because the guy that goes to take Picard down there to be killed off, Picard talks him into letting him him helping. So they devise the plan. First, the first Data flies up and starts blasting the shields to cause them to have to be reset. When they're reset, there's a flash of light as they do this.
But nothing appears.
Of course, they watch as the collector fires up and hits the rings, which is going to kill the planet, and everybody dies. Except something's not happening. They're not getting any readings or anything like that.
What?
And holy shit, we're on a holodeck.
Yep.
Of course, Picard and Worf and the one Sona guy are all on the bridge of the Sona ship, and they've stopped the countdown. But Rufio decides to go over to the collector and fire it up manually. Picard, of course, says, screw that, this is my movie, I'm going over and stopping him. So while he's over there, he's trying to get up there and stop it. Worf and them are holding the bridge, and they get on the bridge. And Worf actually, for once, instead of getting his ass kicked, which is what happens in every episode of TNG, when he gets into a fight, he gets his ass kicked. This time, he's kicking everybody's ass, but they just overwhelm him with numbers at some point.
Yeah.
Because we got to strand Picard on there. Because Picard's going over to self-destruct this thing, which means they have like a 5-second window to get him out after he hits the button. Of course, he gets ready to hit the button, and he's there, but holy crap, it's the Enterprise! Picard hits the button to blow everything up. The Enterprise goes racing along and beams them out in the nick of time as the probe blows up, and the array's gone. The Federation Council, of course, has cut this shit off, and yay. So they're saved. Another bad thing that we did in the past is erased in the future, because that's what Star Trek does. It says everything that the United States did in the past sucked ass, so we're doing it right this time. Yay! Dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, ham fist.
Don't forget the whole part where the young boy Artem is afraid of Data because he's never seen he's never seen a machine before, let alone one that walks and talks. So he's
fully functional, programmed in multiple techniques, including child molestation. What? Oh, never mind. Okay.
So they end up. So Artem and Data end up playing at the end of the movie,
and not in that way.
He ends up like, I gotta go home. All right, see you later. Bye. And then they beam up back to the ship, and
happy ending.
Yep.
Picard, of course, is going to have to come back and see the hottie in the sexy radiation belt. Ooh. And happy ending. Dum, da-da-dum, da-dum. Yeah. We get the Jerry Goldsmith score back again, and it's wonderful to hear that. And it's lovely to play.
It would have been funnier if they'd stopped and like, wait a minute, we're not going to end the movie like this. Let's do the Scooby-Doo indie. Yeah.
But let me quote Rotten Tomatoes, because I think that sums it up best. Although not terrible, this sluggishly paced Insurrection plays like an extended episode of the TV series. It's exactly 3 of these buggers.
Yeah.
It's middle of the road. It's a Star Trek movie.
Yeah. And here the problem is like, what happened is Generations was kind of like this, and then they went into
the stratosphere,
and this kind of started to come down, and then they did Nemesis, and they went pretty much, and of course,
thankfully, that's the worst movie I can think of in the Star Trek franchise of them all.
Do you realize that Nemesis is the reason why we have Abrams Trek? So
yeah.
So we'll talk.
Luckily, luckily, I don't have to watch that quite yet. I'm going to have to watch it this week, ain't I?
You're going to have to watch Nemesis this week. Yes, you are. Have fun. Enjoy. I've watched it recently. I'll watch it again just to make some notes on the movie. But anyways, yeah, I'll give it a definite 3 out of 5 on this one. It's a meh Trek, and not the worst, but certainly not the best. And yeah, you know,
it's better than Star Trek V.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. You know,
and Star Trek Motionless Picture. It's on par with Star Trek The Motionless Picture, except something happens.
Yeah. There's actually some decent action to follow, even though
rather than the Enterprise just flying over things gently.
Pretty much, yeah.
This time when the Enterprise flies over them, something is, yeah!
Pretty much. So, on that note, be sure to join us in the next episode of Treknicity, where we do a review on the movie Star Trek Nemesis, which I believe is the feature debut of one Mr. Tom Hardy, and I'll tell you some facts about that whole train wreck as we talk about it. In the meantime, this has been Treknicity. I have been your host, Lars Di Scenza, and with me has been my fellow Redshirt Geek and hetero life mate, Patrick Murray. I say, as always, rock out with your Spock out. We'll see you later, folks. Bye.